Imagine for a second that everything you have ever been told about attraction is fundamentally incomplete. Not a lie, but a surface-level misunderstanding of how the human brain, and specifically the female brain, processes value and desire. You have been told that to be a man worth chasing, you need the perfect physique, a massive bank account, or a personality that dominates every room you enter. But if that were true, why do we all know men who seem to have none of those things, yet women gravitate toward them with an intensity that seems almost irrational? Why do some men struggle to get a second date despite doing everything right on paper, while others do very little and find themselves constantly sought after? The truth is that the most powerful triggers of attraction are not loud or flashy. They are subtle, behavioral, and almost entirely psychological. They are small habits that signal a specific type of high-value character that most men never learn to project. Today, we are going to look under the hood of the human psyche and break down the 5 exact habits that transform a man from someone who pursues into someone who is pursued. We are going to move past the surface-level tactics and look at the actual evidence of why these behaviors work, including the case studies that prove their effectiveness. If you are tired of the constant chase and ready to understand the internal mechanics of attraction, let's begin. The first major frustration most men face is the feeling of being invisible, even when they are standing right in front of someone. You talk, you joke, you try to be engaging, but you can feel her attention drifting. You can see her eyes scanning the room or her hand reaching for her phone. This happens because most men operate from a place of reactive energy. They are trying to earn attention rather than commanding it. The solution is the first habit on our list: radical presence. Radical presence is not just looking at someone while they speak. It is a total alignment of your physical, mental, and emotional energy in the present moment. Think about the last time someone gave you their absolute undivided attention. No phone on the table, no scanning the room, no looking for the next person to talk to, just a locked-in, steady gaze and a genuine interest in what you were saying. It is incredibly rare. In a world where everyone is constantly distracted by the next notification, a man who can remain completely still and present becomes a psychological anchor. Let's look at a case study to understand why this is so effective. There was a guy named Mark, a talented engineer but socially average. He used to go on dates and spend the whole time worrying about what he was going to say next. He was physically there, but his mind was 3 steps ahead, trying to calculate the perfect joke or the right story. As a result, the women he dated felt like they were talking to a computer, not a man. The vibe was sterile. Mark shifted his approach. He decided that for the first 30 minutes of every interaction, his only goal was to be the most present person in the building. He stopped rehearsing lines and started actually observing the woman in front of him. He noticed the way her eyes moved when she talked about her passions. He noticed the slight hesitation before she answered a personal question. By being radically present, he wasn't just hearing words, he was reading the room. The result was immediate. Women started telling him they felt a strange, magnetic pull toward him. They couldn't explain it, but they felt seen. And when a woman feels seen by a man, she begins to subconsciously crave his validation because his attention actually means something. This leads us directly into the second habit: cognitive empathy and the art of the follow-up. Most men listen with the intent to respond, not to understand. They wait for a gap in the conversation so they can insert their own story or their own opinion. This is a massive mistake because it signals that your ego is more important than the connection. High-value men listen like archaeologists. They listen for the small details, the throwaway comments, and the emotional subtext. The habit here is simple. Never let a significant emotional detail pass without a follow-up. If she mentions that her childhood dog passed away 10 years ago, Don't just say, "That sucks," and move on to your story about your cat. Stop. Ask her what that dog's name was. Ask her what her favorite memory of that dog is. This is the difference between a surface-level interaction and a deep psychological marking. Why does this work? Because of the contrast effect. Most men are so caught up in their own performance that they completely miss the woman's experience. When you catch the details others miss, you become the only person in her world who truly understands her. We see this in the case of Julian. Julian wasn't particularly handsome, but he had a reputation for being a closer. His secret was a small notebook he kept in his car. After every date, he would write down 3 small, seemingly insignificant details the woman had mentioned. Maybe she liked a specific type of obscure tea, or she had a stressful meeting coming up on Tuesday. A week later, he would send a simple text. "Hope that Tuesday meeting went better than expected." That was it. No grand gestures, no flowers, just proof that he was listening. This created a feeling of safety and significance that made those women want to keep him in their lives at all costs. They started chasing him because he represented a level of emotional intelligence that is incredibly scarce. Now, we have to talk about the habit that goes against every natural instinct you have: the strategic exit. Most men, when they find themselves in a conversation that is going well, try to keep it going as long as possible. They stay until the energy dips, until the topics run out, and until the interaction reaches a point of boredom. This is a fatal error. Attraction is built on the peak end rule, a psychological principle that states people judge an experience based on how they felt at its peak and how it ended. If you stay until the conversation dies, the ending is boring, and that is what she will remember. The habit of the high-value man is to leave when the energy is at its absolute highest. When you are both laughing, when the chemistry is electric, when she is leaning in and wanting more, that is exactly when you say, "I've had an incredible time, but I have to get going." This creates an open loop in her mind. Her brain wants to finish the experience that was cut short. She will spend the next several hours or even days replaying that peak moment, wondering why you left and when she can get that feeling back. This is the birth of the chase. If you are always available and you stay until the fire goes out, there is nothing for her to pursue. But if you leave while the fire is roaring, she will come looking for the man who started it. Consider the case of Alex. Alex was a guy who used to stay on the phone for 4 hours with girls he liked. By the end of the call, they were both tired, the conversation was repetitive, and the mystery was gone. He changed his rule. He never stayed on a call for more than 20 minutes, and he always ended it first while things were still fun. Suddenly, the girls started calling him back. They started asking him why he was so busy. His perceived value skyrocketed because he was no longer a resource that was endlessly available. He became a prize that had to be captured. This brings us to the 4th behavior: selective availability and the architecture of a full life. There is a massive difference between playing hard to get and actually being hard to get. Women have an incredible radar for manufactured scarcity. If you are sitting on your couch, staring at your phone, but waiting 3 hours to text back just to seem busy, she will eventually feel the inauthenticity. True selective availability comes from having a life that is genuinely more important than any single interaction. When your mission, your health, your career, and your brotherhood come first, your time becomes naturally expensive. You aren't avoiding her, you are simply occupied with your own growth. This signals that you are a man of purpose, and a man of purpose is the most attractive thing on the planet. Why? Because it suggests that if she wants to be part of your world, she has to earn a spot in it. It flips the script. Instead of you auditioning for her, She begins to wonder if she fits into the life you are building. Look at the data on social dynamics. Men who have high levels of investment in their own personal development are consistently rated as more attractive than men who prioritize romantic pursuit. This is the law of social gravity. The more you focus on your own center of mass, the more others are pulled into your orbit. The habit here is to say no more often than you say yes. Not to be mean, but to protect your priorities. When you finally do say yes to a date or a conversation, she knows it is a deliberate choice, not a desperate one. She will value that time 10 times more because she knows what it cost you to give it to her. The fifth habit is the one that most men completely overlook because it seems too simple. Micro-thoughtfulness. This isn't about buying expensive gifts. In fact, expensive gifts early on often kill attraction because they feel like a bribe for her affection. Micro-thoughtfulness is about the small, unprompted actions that prove you are thinking about her when she isn't around. It is the 3-second text that says, "Saw this and thought of you," attached to a picture of a book she mentioned. It is remembering that she hates cilantro and making sure the waiter knows before she even has to say it. These tiny actions communicate that you have a high level of mental bandwidth and that she has a place in it. It creates a subtle, consistent emotional warmth that acts like a slow burn. Over time, that slow burn becomes an inferno. Think about a woman named Sarah. She was dating 2 guys. One was a traditional alpha, loud and impressive. He took her to expensive dinners, but never remembered her last name. The other guy was quiet, but he remembered that she was nervous about her presentation on Friday. On Friday morning, he sent a text that just said, "You're going to crush that meeting." Guess which one she ended up chasing? She chose the man who made her feel like a priority in the small moments. The grand gestures are easy. The small ones are where the real work happens. This leads us to the final and perhaps most important psychological shift: the explanatory gap. Most men feel the need to explain themselves constantly. They explain why they were late, why they made a certain decision, or why they have a certain opinion. They are constantly seeking permission and validation through their words. High-value men do the opposite. They speak with conviction, and they let their actions do the explaining. When you stop over-explaining, you create a sense of mystery and authority. You stop looking like a boy trying to stay out of trouble and start looking like a man who is comfortable in his own skin. If you make a choice, own it. If you have a boundary, hold it. You don't need to build a legal case for why your boundaries exist. They exist because you are the authority in your own life. This creates a vacuum that women will naturally try to fill with their own curiosity. They will ask questions. They will try to understand your motives. And that engagement is exactly what leads to the feeling of being in a chase. Now, we have to address the transition from tactics to identity. You can take all 5 of these habits and try to perform them like a script. But if your internal identity hasn't changed, they will eventually fail. Women are masters of detecting subtext. If you are using these habits to trick someone into liking you, you are still operating from a place of low value. The goal is to become the man for whom these habits are natural. A man who is genuinely present because he values the moment. A man who listens because he is genuinely curious about the world. A man who leaves early because he actually has somewhere important to be. A man who is thoughtful because he genuinely cares about the people in his life. When these behaviors become your identity, you stop needing to think about them. You stop worrying about whether she is chasing you or not, because you are too busy being the kind of man who is worth chasing. This is the philosophical shift from doing to being. Most of the advice you find online is about doing. Do this, say that, wear this. But the real power is in being. When you embody these habits, you change your fundamental frequency. You become a man of high perceived value because you actually are a man of high value. You have self-respect, you have boundaries, and you have a life that is worth living regardless of who is in it. That independence is the ultimate aphrodisiac. It creates a challenge. It creates a reason for a woman to step up and show you why she should be part of your journey. As we wrap this up, I want you to look at your own life. Which of these habits have you been neglecting? Are you the guy who stays too long at the party until the spark dies? Are you the guy who is always available, waiting by the phone for a text that might never come? Or are you the guy who is so distracted by his own insecurities that he fails to see the person standing right in front of him? The path to becoming the man women secretly chase is not found in a grand transformation. It is found in the small, daily commitment to these subtle behavioral shifts. It is found in the decision to value your own time, to listen with your whole heart, and to lead with a quiet, unshakable confidence. Start today. Pick one of these habits. Maybe it is just being radically present in your next conversation. Maybe it is ending your next phone call 5 minutes before you think you should. Watch how the energy changes. Watch how the people around you, and specifically the women you are interested in, begin to respond to this new version of you. They will notice the shift before you even say a word. They will feel the change in the atmosphere, and before you know it, the chase will have begun. Not because you started it, but because you became the kind of man that no one wants to let walk away. This is not about manipulation. It is about mastery. It is about understanding the deep psychological currents that move us all and learning how to swim with them rather than against them. You have the tools. You have the knowledge. Now, the only thing left is the action. Go out there and be the man who commands the room by simply being in it. Be the man who leaves a lasting impression by saying less. Be the man worth chasing. I have spent years studying these dynamics, and I can tell you with absolute certainty that the men who figure this out never have to worry about loneliness again. They don't have to worry about being enough because they have already decided that they are. And that decision is the most attractive thing in the universe. If you found value in this, if this spoke to a part of you that is ready to level up, then take that first step. Engage with the world differently. Respect your own mystery. Protect your own time. And most importantly, stay present. The world is full of men who are chasing ghosts. Be the man who stands still and let the world come to you. You are more powerful than you realize, and the habits we discussed today are the keys to unlocking that power in every interaction you have. Thank you for being here, and thank you for being willing to do the hard work of self-improvement. It isn't always easy to look in the mirror and realize where you've been falling short, but it is the only way to grow. This conversation doesn't end here. It continues in how you carry yourself tomorrow. It continues in the way you look people in the eye and the way you value your own silence. Keep building, keep evolving, and never settle for being a man who has to chase when you were born to be the prize. The psychological shifts we have talked about are the foundation of a new way of living. When you master your own behavior, you master your own destiny. It is a journey, not a destination, but every step you take in this direction brings you closer to the life and the relationships you've always wanted. Don't let this be just another video you watch and forget. Let it be the catalyst for a total shift in how you navigate the world of attraction. You have everything you need to be successful. Now, go out there and prove it to yourself. The chase is on, but this time, you are the one in the lead. I will be here, reading your stories and seeing how these changes are impacting your life. Let's keep this momentum going. Until next time, stay focused, stay purposeful, and stay magnetic.